Make every night a wonderful journey, no matter where you are. Good night, sweet dreams. The first story, The Mound. This is a true story that happened to me several years ago. This story will not be as scary as some creepy pastas, but that is because I do not have free roam to freak you out. I must stick to what happened. The place was Johnstown, PA, in what I believe to be mid-August. My name was Adam. At the time of this event, I was 13 years old. When I was younger, I lived in Johnstown. I would spend the school year in Johnstown and visit my father in New Jersey during holidays. I would always return to Johnstown in August to leave time before school started up again. One year, a day or so after returning back to Johnstown, my mother took my cousin Ben, who was only a couple months older than me, and I to the local drive-in theater to watch the movie Monster House. The movie was about 3 kids who went into a living murderous house. Ben, I would look at the sky now and again, because it was supposed to be a good night to see shooting stars. However, while looking for the stars, we saw something eerie. We could see horizontal bars of light in the night sky that rotated about slowly and stretched from horizon to horizon. There was about 2 or 3 of them. As we were staring at these, we also saw what seemed to be regular planes in the sky, though they could not have been normal planes, as they occasionally would reverse flight direction immediately without stopping or losing speed. It was like we were watching a video, and someone threw it into rewind in the blink of an eye. We tried to show my mom the horizontal concentrations of light, which she was surprisingly dismissive about, but we couldn't keep her watching these planes long enough for her to see one change direction. They only did it 4 or 5 times altogether the whole time, and to catch it someone would have to be watching for it, or look at just the right time. We ended up catching the last part of the movie, but we still were keeping our eyes on the sky. When the movie was over, Mom dropped us off at Ben's house, as we were planning on spending the night there. We did not stay inside that long, as we decided to go to the Mound, which was maybe a 5-minute walk from his house. The Mound was a large, wide-open, risen but flat field. It was about the size of a football field, and was surrounded by a thin ring of trees. It was well taken care of, and mowed regularly. There was a large stone staircase leading up to the top of the mound from the sidewalk. Right at the top of the stairs was a large free-flying American flag, though the field itself was flat. At the edge of the field was a steep hill down to the road. I have included a diagram so you can see how it looked. Ben and I came to the mound from the lower right part of the diagram and climbed up the slope between points B and C. Like we always did, we walked to the center of the mound at point A to lay down in the soft grass as we looked into the sky for shooting stars. We were side by side with our heads towards the flag and our feet towards the opening between B and C. It was quite dark out. The sky was nice and clear, and everything was very quiet, so the situation could not have been better. We stayed there for maybe 15 minutes, catching sights of the shooting stars and saying things like, "Did you see that one?" After a while, I saw something in the corner of my eye, a large, solid, white mass zip from point B to point C right along the edge of the flat field, right where it crested into a slope. It went from in the woods in B and disappeared from in the woods in C. It happened in the blink of an eye and without sound, but its white body contrasted against the night's darkness, so it stood out. I briefly looked to where it had disappeared to and immediately dismissed it. I figured that staring at shooting stars was making my eyes play tricks on me. However, I saw Ben slowly stand up with his eyes locked in the direction of Point C. He had an unnerved and slightly frightened look. "White thing?" I asked quietly. "Yeah." Ben mumbled. We had both seen it. I stood up with him, and we both abandoned the stealth idea by sprinting over to the flagpole, which had bright lights surrounded all night every night to illuminate it. I guess the lights seemed like a source of refuge or safety. We got to the pole and quickly turned around. We discussed this with each other, piecing together that we had both seen the exact same thing. We stayed by the flagpole for a while, looking into the trees, trying to find something in the darkness. After a few times saying, "Did you see something over there?" and then deciding that we hadn't, we bolted down the stairs and hurried along the sidewalk back to Ben's house. Ever since, we had both been to the Mound numerous times, but neither Ben nor I had seen this thing again, nor had we heard of anyone else seeing anything like this. The second story, The Party of Ages. I'm so sorry. I'm writing this from a horrible place in hopes that it will somehow reach anyone out there. So the event that got me here happened to me this weekend. I was on holiday, about 2 weeks in, when I get invited to this performance. Not via phone, but I get this neatly wrapped parcel in my mail. It's bound by leather straps in a velvet sleeve that holds the letter in. It's not new paper either. It had an odd, old-fashioned texture to it. It felt coarse, but anyway, the parcel was covered in dust, but it looked like it had been around for a long time. What got me creeped out by this thing was the fact I checked my mail around 2 or 3 days ago. It was littered with stamps from all around the world. It had Berlin, Tokyo, New York, London, just to name a few. I could barely get the thing to open by the time I got inside. The stamps and the labels listing its countless destinations made it hard for me to find the opening, the city I am in. But I digress. After a while of fiddling with the packaging, the parcel opened. The paper fell away gently to reveal a little oak box, like the one you would keep jewelry in. Along with the box, it had an attached note. "Est, you have been cordially invited to attend the event of the century. Come on down and experience the event of a lifetime. Open the box when you arrive. Management." So after seeing this and reading some creepypastas in my time, I was kind of skeptical but excited. The address was a local place in the city. Maybe I would meet a ghost or something. It might just be a prank or an actual party, but the circumstances made me skeptical, so I decided to go to this little get-together. But a good explorer has to be prepared. I collected a flashlight, some protein bars, a caber knife my dad gave me after he left the military, and some water. All right, I thought, I can go to this place, scope it out, and then come home and write a story about my experiences or something like that. Maybe get some internet fandom. This was my main goal anyway, and I had a free week, and hey, why not? I left the house, locking up as usual, leaving a note to tell anyone who wanted to find me where I was going, and began walking. The city block I needed to go to was only a short distance to where I lived. The walk was pretty normal. A few drunkards walking around the street, club music blasting through the thin walls. A couple of cute girls eyed me, but I just stuck my hands into my coat, keeping my mind on the task at hand. I could be in another place apart from exploring supernatural parcels and messages. But what the hell? I have 2 months to kill. Well, the address wasn't what I was expecting. I was waiting for a menacing lot, covered in tombstones, and a big mansion overlooking a block of land that should have been sold in the 19th century. But nope, this place was just a big block of apartments. It looked normal enough. I studied the outside for a while before entering. The architecture looked like something from a noir detective film, but I was assured that I would be alright. There were plenty of party goers across the road and enough light to keep it illuminated. If I was about to get the shit kicked out of me by a homeless man or whatever awaited me in this apartment, the main gate door was left ajar. The people who invited me were probably expecting me to arrive, so I put on my toughest ghost hunting face and walk boldly inside. Well, how anticlimactic. A receptionist sits at the desk doing her nails. She glances up. Oh, it's you. The other guests are upstairs. They let me show you up. Okay. I looked down at my shoes, feeling a little disappointed. No monsters, no demons. Hell, even an oversized rat would have made this outing a little more fun. I get a better look at the receptionist as she glides over to me, the biggest smile stretched cheek to cheek as she ushers me toward the old-time white elevator. You are so lucky to be invited to such a special event, she says. Why, thank you, ma'am, I say, putting on my most dapper 30s detective voice. She blushes and doesn't say a word for the rest of the trip up to whatever floor I'm going to. We arrive at the floor. No lights protrude in the hall apart from the lights on beside the door to room 922. Well, here we are. Enjoy your stay. Before I can say anything to the young lady, she adolescent into the elevator, waving as she descends down to the ground floor. Strange, but the music across the street has stopped now. The door opens as a large man in a suit extends his finger, motioning me to come inside. I enter the room. Instead of being greeted by the usual party guests and the apartment housing food and drinks, I am shown to a large auditorium. Totally impossible to be on the side of an apartment building. The hall extends to over 200 feet across. Dotted around the landscape are people. Oh, thank Christ, people. But the hall still has me eerily expecting something to jump out of nowhere. The crowd looks up for whatever they are doing and stares at me. Not even blinking, they just stare. Oh, hey guys. Don't let me stop the party. They continue staring at me. This gives me time to notice what or who they are. All of them are different in every way. There are Asian, African, Caucasian, and they are all dressed as if they were from different eras to me. There are 50 businessmen. There are emperors. There are samurai. There are peasants. There are kings and monarchs. Even a group of soldiers are amongst the large crowd staring right at me. The expression on their faces is sadness, but they look as if the costumes were fashioned professionally, and they could be having a really great time. The man in the suit gets out a clipboard and asks me my name. Wouldn't you guys know if you already sent me a letter? He glances at me and cracks his knuckles. It has John Clementi. He nods and closes the door behind. I turn around. The crowd is still staring at me. I walk in between them, trying to look around for some sort of drink I can blend in with. One of the soldiers walks up to me and pats me on the shoulder. Bad luck. It's sometimes your number just comes up. Excuse me. A knight sticks his helmet up and shouts, "By the gods, isn't anyone going to tell the boy what has happened? Look at him. He doesn't even know what he has walked into. A businessman walks over to me, carrying a martini, and says perfectly calmly, "You are so fucked." I immediately run towards the door. The handle opens, and I burst outwards. The suited man is nowhere to be seen. The elevator is rusted, but it looks like it could still work. I get my knife out and pry the gate open and hop in. The buttons light up barely as the door I ran out of closes on the saddened party goers. The elevator creaks and finally starts to descend. I arrive at the bottom floor. All lights are out and there is a dusty mold growing over everything. This isn't even the worst part. The rotting corpse sitting where the receptionist last was as rolled of its chair and smashed into the ground. I start hyperventilating and running out the front door. The city is black. No lights. No sounds. The only noticeable thing is how old everything is. The buildings are the same, but rusted and dusty. The road has cracks all around and there are corpses on the sidewalks and street. I get out my flashlight and start sprinting towards my house. I get about halfway when I notice the guests are behind me, standing perfectly still. Some are crying, others are laughing. I run home and try to lock the door. My dog's leg is jammed on the hinge. As I slam the door and the bone shatters, as I run upstairs. Too shocked for words, I burst into my room. Dusty and in awful shape, I sit at my desk and begin to cry. I wasn't prepared for this. I shouldn't have gone. This is dumb. All the stories online could have been real. This has to be fake. I wait for the cameras and director to come out laughing, but it never happens. I rummage through my shelves, all dusty and useless. I check my backpack and look for something that can help. The protein bars are intact. I undo a sheath hoping that some food would calm my nerves, but only dust falls out of the place where the bar should be. I drop it and scream. I'm thirsty. I need water. The water bottle unhinges, and only dust, and only dust. And dash pour out. I slam my fist into the desk and look for more things to try. The only two things intact are the box and note. My knife and torch disintegrate as I put them away. I remember the words of the letter and decide I have definitely arrived enough to open it. I expect salvation and glimmering light. A possible escape from this hellhole. A bastion of hope fills my ear as I slide open the lid. Dear guest, you have arrived to the party. Unfortunately, you can't leave. Spend time with new friends at your new home and enjoy. Welcome to hell. The box falls on the floor along with my hope of ever leaving. I collect my items and pace around the room. This can't be it. I don't want to die in this place. I have hopes. I have dreams. I have people waiting for me back home. I muster my courage to open the door. I closed behind me in my bedroom. It only opens to a large hall out to 100 meters long. The guests are still there, looking at me. Tears well up in my eyes as they walk toward me. They try to console me as the box and note turn to washing my hands as well. It's going to be all right, kid, one day. We'll get out of here, says a biker. The third story, holder of eternity, in any city, in any country. Go to any mental institution or halfway house you can get yourself to. When you reach the front desk, ask to visit someone who calls himself the holder of eternity. A sign might escape the worker as they look upon you with the utmost pity. They will take you down a flight of stairs into what should be the basement of the building, yet isn't. As you press deeper and deeper into the underbelly of the institution, you will begin to hear a chorus of screams. At first it will be barely audible, as if originating from a point a great distance away. But the closer you get to the end of the hallway, the louder it will become until it drones so loudly that it seems to consume all other noises. Soon the din will become so painful that you will feel the unrelenting urge to claw at your own ears to escape it. It is advisable to resist this impulse, or else it will be impossible to complete your quest. The worker will show you a door, covering both their ears as they do so. As swiftly as they can, they will unlock the door and run, leaving you alone in this cramped, dark hallway. This will be your last chance to run. If you decide to continue, open the door. The piercing wail will then end abruptly, leaving your ears ringing. The room you will enter will be coated in an almost tangible, workmanship darkness. But for the far end of the room, there, manacled to the wall, is an emaciated figure, covered in raw lashes. He will stare directly at you, with a maniacal grin plastered to his face despite festering wounds, and a scalpel still half protruding from his chest. Now will be your only chance to save yourself, and the only way is to ask, who created them, in a manner befitting the death throes of an animal before responding. His will be the most horrific tale you have ever heard. Beyond such primitive concepts as pain and death, it will delve deep into the very essence of evil. Those of weak mind go mad at the man's story, so remain strong, no matter how fragile your mind may feel. When he finishes, it will be up to you to end this man's life. Releasing his terrible burden, remove the scalpel, and he will shudder, once in agony before falling silent. Forever. That scalpel is object 3 of 538. It is up to you if the rest should be protected or destroyed. Previous next.